Most contracts are built on a simple idea. You promise to do something, I promise to give you something in return. And once that promise is made, the deal is fixed. But real life rarely stays fixed. Deadlines slip, costs rise, pressure builds. So what happens when both sides agree to change the deal, but nothing new is added on paper? This is the question at the heart of Williams versus Roffey Brothers. And the answer quietly changed how modern contract law works. In the late 1980s, Roffey Brothers were building contractors. They had taken on a housing project that came with strict deadlines. If they finished late, they would face heavy financial penalties. To complete part of the work, they hired a carpenter named Mr. Williams as a subcontractor. He agreed to do the carpentry for a fixed price. On paper, the arrangement was clear. Work agreed. Price agreed. But soon problems emerged. Mr. Williams was struggling financially. He began to fall behind schedule. The work slowed. For Roffey Brothers, this was dangerous. Delays meant penalties. Penalties meant losses far greater than the cost of the carpentry itself. They had a choice: terminate the contract and risk even greater delay, or renegotiate. They chose to renegotiate. Roffey Brothers promised Mr. Williams additional payments if he completed the same work on time. No extra tasks, no expanded scope, just more money for finishing what he had already promised to do. Mr. Williams continued working. Some payments were made under the new promise. Then the payment stopped. Roffey Brothers argued they were not legally required to pay more. Why? Because under traditional contract law, Mr. Williams had given no new consideration. This is where the old rule comes in. For centuries, contract law followed a strict principle. If you promise to do what you are already legally obliged to do, that promise is not valid consideration for a new agreement. In simple terms, you can't charge extra for doing the same job. Under this logic, the promise by Roffey Brothers to pay more should have been unenforceable, and for a long time, courts would have ended the analysis right there. But the judges in this case looked beyond formal logic. They asked a different question. Did Roffey Brothers receive a real practical benefit from their promise? The court identified several benefits. By promising more money, Roffey Brothers reduced the risk of delay, avoided penalty clauses in their main contract, improved the likelihood of completing the project on time. These were not theoretical benefits. They were commercial realities. The court emphasized something important. There was no fraud, no economic duress, no unfair pressure. Just two parties adjusting their agreement to avoid a worse outcome. And that adjustment, the court said, had value. The decision was clear. Promise to pay more was enforceable. Not because Mr. Williams did more work, but because Roffey Brothers gained a practical benefit from making the promise. This was a quiet shift, but a profound one. The law did not abandon consideration. It reinterpreted it. Benefit did not have to be new tasks or extra labor. It could be reduced risk, greater certainty, or avoided loss. This case matters because renegotiation happens everywhere. In business, in construction, in employment. Deadlines change, costs rise, reality intrudes. Williams v. Roffey Bros. Recognizes that contracts are not frozen in time. They operate in the real world. But the case also draws a careful boundary. For promises extracted through pressure or coercion, it will fail. If there is no genuine benefit, it will fail. Flexibility, but not exploitation. So what does this case leave us with? A simple but powerful idea. Sometimes keeping a project alive is worth more than rigid logic. The law still values certainty, but it also recognizes practical judgment. And when both sides act rationally to avoid loss, the law may choose to enforce that choice. This is the case of Williams' Roffey Brothers, a story about promises, pressure, and the moment contract law adapted to reality.